creating WordPress theme from your template. So, I was. Hopefully you will be. So currently then, if I go to my proto sites demo 2017-01, it currently looks like this, where what I have going on right now is if we look into our WP content folder, so in our WordPress folder, in our WP content folder, in the themes folder, in my demo theme that I am building for this class, 170 Spring 1701, if I open up index.php, this is the file then that we, and by we I mean I, had started putting in the WordPress functionality, meaning that to call the style sheet. So again, if I open up main HTML, which is what I created index.php from, so if I had styles.css, which you don't see in my system here, theme system anymore, or flex slider CSS, in order to, in the WordPress world, get into the scripts folder or call this style sheet right here that is in the folder from our theme, we can't do a relative path like this from our PHP files, right? We can still do a relative path within our style sheet. In other words, if I have in my style sheet, I want to call this background file, right? Which that background file is the box's image in the background there. In order to call that in my style sheet, I can still use a relative path. Yes, Chris? So, sorry, if I'm trying to call an image, a background image within my style sheet, I can still call using a relative path because the style sheet has loaded within the little box of the local, right? But to call a style sheet, another style sheet, like if I'm trying to get this flex slider style sheet, if I'm just have a regular static site, I can just call it using a relative pathway. In other words, I'm loading a file from that folder, look within that folder to grab it, right? Makes sense? So in the WordPress world though, when a theme loads, the theme is actually loading all the way in this folder, right? So domain, whatever domain you have, whatever your WordPress folder is called, in your WP content, in your themes folder, in your theme folder. So themes folder, this is then the name of the theme for style.css or flexslider.css, okay? So when we are loading our theme files like index.php and we need to then link to a style sheet or another JavaScript file like this jQuery flexslider.js, that's then where we have to start using WordPress's functions. In other words, I could do this if I wanted to. Save that, it goes to my server. You are actually responding, Dreamweaver, because it'll take you a second, but or else. See? So if I put that absolute pathway to my style sheets, right? It still works, okay? But here's the thing. Why don't we do it like this? Correct. What if you're on a different URL? What if this changes? So on and so forth. So therefore, to grab style.css, we use the blog info function with the argument of style sheet URL. To answer your question, Chris, if we have another style sheet, we use the function blog info. Again, if we go to blog info, we can pass arguments through blog info that do certain things. Template URL. It goes and looks into the themes directory, the active themes directory. Okay? So therefore, if we ever have to go and load something within the scripts folder, blog info template directory, don't forget /. We need to load Flex Slider. Go look into the theme folder. Don't forget / to get Flex Slider. Does that answer your question, Chris? Are you talking about one that's already an absolute pathway? Yeah. Think hard on this one. So if I have an absolute pathway right here, can I leave it? Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, if I want to then as well, if I have images in my theme, right? Like, I'm sorry, Chris, I was being snotty again, wasn't I? You're used to it? I appreciate that. So if I'm trying to load something from my images folder, same thing. Blog info. Template directory, right? Template directory, template directory. Don't forget the /. So same thing where if I have currently in my theme right now, I have this featured image that's not loading because it's being pulled from my images folder, right? So anything that you want to try to pull from your images folder or your scripts folder or your fonts folder or whatever folder within your themes, you then have to go look into the template directory for that image, that font, that script, okay? Unless you are in your style sheet. If you are in your style sheet, you do not need to go and do the absolute pathway. You can just do the relative pathway. Okay? So right now then, if I go back here, that image should load because I've sent it to the direct pathway. Okay? So here's what we're going to do today. This right here, all this content, that is just mock temp content. Buh and buy. Okay? Because if we now are at our website, right, we want to get the content for whatever page we're on. Currently, we're on the home page. So if I log into WP admin, let me navigate to my notes for the loop. Okay, so anything that then, if we're on a page, like the About page, right? In the About page, remember how we, meaning I, put an image and text and another image in there, right? Well, if I go and try to view this page now, nothing shows up there because I have not gone to get anything from the content editor, okay? Or I have not gone to get anything from any one of the fields, like the title, or we don't have excerpts on pages yet, but if I went to the posts and let's say I had some text in my excerpt field here, right? I have not gone and told WordPress to go get any of that stuff. So if I view this post as well, again, nothing's in there. So how do we do that? You guys know? I can't remember. The loop. The good old WordPress loop for your theme, okay? So if you have content that you have statically put into your template, that's where you need to remove it and use what we call the loop, which goes like this. If have posts, while have posts, go get the post. So this is where WordPress says, are there postings to show? There are. Great. Then while there are postings to be shown, I will show the contents of them. Seriously, WordPress can talk like that. Don't question, just believe. This is me being probably really tired and drunk while I'm writing this lecture, right? Maybe on a little cocaine and heroin. I don't remember. It's tough times at the Snkula house. All kinds of things going on. Okay? So therefore, what we need to do is put the loop into, let's kind of take an example or take a look at what happens then. So if I go to any one of my business pages, Let's go to this one. Okay. So if I'm on this page right here, okay, this content written right there is pulled from the text editor, right? As well as the title is up here, as well as we have the excerpt there. Okay. I have a featured image. Here's where I'm getting those case studies via shortcode, right? But essentially, if I then go take a look at page.php for my business theme, here's my content opener, here's my content closer. If, have posts, while, have posts, go get the post information. So therefore then, I have hooked into whatever page or post or whatever ID I am on. In other words, if we see the ID right here in this bit of HTML, so I've said article tag, ID, page content, dash, go get the ID of the page. So if the ID of the page is 15, and I view this, and I inspect article, ID, page content, ID number 15, okay? As well, if I then say, we're digging into the post by ID number, go get the title. All right, put the title in an H2 tag. Sounds good to me. Web design and development in an H2 tag. Get the gateway spotlights. Well, Mike, you have written some kind of custom functionality that if you are on a gateway page, get this stuff. Research, design, develop. I've created some functionality that for this page, it goes and looks for spotlight page, and here are the 3 words. The content. This is the daddy, the big daddy of all the functions. The content goes and digs into anything that you have put in here in the text editor. Okay, so the content, p tag, so on and so forth, right? All the way through those pieces and then through the article tag. So article, article, oops, article, article, the title, the content. Okay. Then I also have another function that says get child pages, right? So if we're on a gateway page, like this, if I go to edit this page, right? The only thing in this text editor is just that paragraph. So the content function just gets this paragraph. Then I have that other function that says get child pages. And so for this gateway or parent page, I have told it to go get the child pages with the title, with the image, with the excerpt, with the view more link. Okay? So, long story short, what we need to do is so hopefully in the template system that you are using to create your theme, you have a spot for written content, correct? Yes. Great. So in that spot for your written content, let's write out the loop. I am going to write it the wrong way to start out with. It'll make sense when I do that. I'm not going to write it out the wrong way. I'm going to write it out the less efficient way. If have underscore posts. So we start out with a conditional if statement, if there are posts. Okay. So if I Google the if have posts, or let's just go back to the loop. Right. So here's the inefficient way of doing it. If have posts, right, which the have posts function, let's actually look that up. Used to determine if any post exists. Okay. If you have posts inside that conditional, we can then say, wow, have posts. And use the function. Okay. Here's the thing though. Why is this an inefficient way of writing this? Well, if you are writing things like this, where it's all in one PHP tag, that kind of assumes that then in here, to write any HTML, right, you might use an echo statement. Which is inefficient when you are writing lots of stuff into a template file, okay? It's efficient if you are using the loop, for instance, for get child pages. It's efficient to use it that way. Well, I did it this way too. But in if you are using just one big PHP script, right, to then use echo statements or a return statement. So how many of you have written conditional statements where you've used then echo or return statements, right? Great. So if you then are going to be writing HTML, you have to then say echo, write the HTML, and if you want to pass a variable through it, you have to use, what is this? What's the strategy? What's the theory that I'm using right there? Concatenation. Relatively inefficient here. Okay, so instead, in writing the loop in here, we typically use the theory or principle known as escapement, meaning you can write a partial PHP script, close it, open it back in, and write HTML in it. Like, and if I'm telling you something that you already know, well, fantastic. So therefore, I can open a PHP script, write an if statement, inside write a while, inside write another statement, close the PHP out, end while, end if. How many of you have ever written syntax for conditionals using the colon and then an end if or an end while? Anybody? Okay, so this is why I'm going through it, because this might be a new type of system for you. So if I replace this bracket right there with a colon like that, and I replace this one with a colon, and then I close this script out so I can start writing HTML in here, okay? I still need to close out with, I need to end my while statement, I need to end my if statement. So therefore, instead of these, inside a new PHP script tag, I can say end while, end if. Okay? So it still works like a set of brackets where if, end if, while, end while. Yes, right? In other words, don't say end if, end while, because that's like having your brackets reversed, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, they have to be nested in the same order. Just, yeah, so in other words, well, yes, like this. So in essence, right? So if we look at here, right? If, here is the closing bracket for ending the if statement. Here is the while statement inside the if block. Here is then the statement that goes and digs into whatever post, right? So therefore, we can start it if, while, the post, end while. We can also put an else in there if we want to. Sorry, no post match your criteria, but I never really use that methodology. I've never gotten that error statement in my life when I've put it in there, so I tend to bypass it. We could even get rid of the if statement if we wanted to and just have, while there are posts, go get them. But I usually take the long, more proper road and put it in a conditional statement. Okay? So this right here is the essence of our loop. So basically, if you need to get anything, image, featured image, title, excerpt, something from a custom field, etc., for any post or page, right? You put it in the loop. So now, if I said, so if I wanted to now go and get the header for whatever page I'm on, like the name of this posting, I want to go and get this field right there. So inside the loop then, I could write out an H2 tag, right? That this is where I want to get the title. So now that I am inside the while portion of the loop, right? While there are postings, while there is information to go get it, okay? So, open up another PHP tag, spell it correctly. And I would use the function, the title, and I would spell that correctly.
And the post are two separate functions. Is that a line up?
This? See if I spelled it correctly.
Well,
The post. Yes, this is correct because I'm saying, are there posts? Because in a loop, I can go get a series of postings. Meaning, in other words, this is a good question, so I'm going to answer. If we are on the blog feed, right, I want to go get all of these postings. But for all those postings, so if I go to index.php and I look at the loop, right? Here I didn't use the if statement, I just used while. So while have posts, the post. So basically I'm saying write an article tag, an H3 tag for the title, get the featured image, get the excerpt, get the byline. For all of the posts, get the single post. So for instance, on the blog feed, how many blog postings do I have? A lot. So I've told it to go get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and display 5. So for if have posts, meaning if there are a bunch of blog postings, right? While there are blog postings to go get each one of them. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a for each loop, a little bit. But, right, so for each one of those, and that's where I actually do to do a lot of this work, like go get the children pages for services, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there are 4 of them. So therefore, I'm using a while loop in here, right? Because that's the standard way they do their loop. But there are times that I am going to want to use a for each loop. Very, very similar. We use a while loop if we are going to get the whole posting or information regarding the whole posting. If, for instance, we are just going to get attachments for a certain posting, then we can say for each one of those attachments, do this. Does that make sense, Michael? Okay. So therefore, now, this out successfully, right? If have post while have post the post, go get the title, right? If I save this now and I go back to this lorem ipsum dolor sediment posting and I go view it, I should see the title. All right? Now, if I go back to the home page, because my home page currently is set to be the blog feed, I see the title of my latest posting. Okay, so if I then went and created a new posting, and you know what? I probably should have been using, do I have my logo? No, I have my logo and H1 tag, don't I? So if I then create another posting with this title, give it the category news, publish it, view post, I should see that. If I go back to the home page, I should see the 2 titles because this is my blog feed, right? Does that make sense? All right. So then to get the content out of the content editor, we use the function, the content. Again, if you want to look those up, right, in the lecture here, I've said, go get the title. The title has arguments that you can put in there. Like you can pass the tags through the title function like that instead of writing them on the outside. I typically write them on the outside. Why? Just because what if I want something there? I guess I could do it this way, but whatever. If I do things my way, you can do them yours. The content then yeah. They're pointing things to, I don't think I like this repointing stuff to developer.wordpress versus codex.wordpress. Well, the content also, you can have arguments through there. I bet they giggled when they wrote that one. Okay, but now if I say the content without any arguments passed through it, what I should see now is for each one of these, I should then get the written content. Okay. So if I'm then on the About page, and again, we haven't put our navigation system in, but if I go to the About page as well, it is then going to get my photos, which apparently I am going to have to modify my CSS because that doesn't look right. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's what I did is I just didn't on my, no, I did. Images, max width, 100. Oh, that's what it is. I remember. I think this happens every time I teach this class. Contents. Content, image. Maybe it was a line none. It's probably the yeah, I'll have to go back and fix that. I'm not going to worry about fixing it right now. But anyhow, I can also, let's say I want the title to link to the posting. But there's also one thing that I forgot to do that I'm going to do now. In the text portion, I'm going to put a small tag and I'm going to say index.php. So I know that index.php is the page that, or the template page that's loaded. So in other words, now if I go back here, it's telling me that I'm using index.php. Right? Same thing on the home page. I'm using index.php. All right. The last function that we're going to do for today in the loop is if on our H2s, because on the index page, we have the feed to each one of these, right? Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I am going to put here an article tag and wrap everything in an article tag. Because later on, I might want to put classes in here, right? So for instance, if I just put class, and for right now, I put article, doesn't mean anything, right? But again, for on the index page here, each one of those now is going to be written inside of its own little article tag. So that's typically, like I said, a way that, so basically I can do something like this. ID, article, and then let's go take a look at the function I need. I think it's just the ID. Yep, the ID. So I'm trying to do a similar thing right here. So if I then said the ID, right, this ID, and I hit save, then each one of these articles is also going to have an ID that says article number whatever. So if I refresh that, article number 54, article number 17 with a class of article. Okay. So another function that I want to use a lot of times is I want this title to link to the posting. Permalink. So hopefully you can kind of see how this is built, right? I want to go and get stuff from postings. For each one of those postings, I may want to get the ID, the title, the content, the permalink. So now, this links directly to that article. See how this is just one puzzle that you just have to go, oh, what puzzle piece do I need? How do I do that? What's the function I need? Oh, that's the function I need. It's WordPress. Ready? So, for your assignments, regarding this lecture, create your theme from your template. You need to create index.php. Typically, create index.php from your main template, the template that has the content area and a sidebar in it. Okay? Create your style sheet, style.css. Create your functions file, functions.php. Put in a screenshot for your theme, okay? Load this theme into your WordPress install and activate it, right? So hopefully you've already put, how many of you have already put your template in your themes folder? Okay, good. Then add the blog info function to call your style sheet, etc. Add the body class function in there. Add your WP head function, your WP footer functions. Create the loop within the relevant, within the content area of your theme. Put in at least the title, the permalink, the content functions. Make sense? Okay. So each week that I'm doing this, I am then going to according to the lecture, Spring 1701. I'm just going to upload to my GitHub repository through the web interface like this. No sleeping, Kristen. I caught you. I caught you dozing off. So you can go and take a look at the GitHub repository, right, of what we're doing. Again, don't, oops, oh, it hasn't uploaded yet. Don't copy and paste this stuff, write it out. Right. All of this stuff, just write it out. It's tempting, I know, to copy and paste it. Don't. Because if I see that, especially if I see you doing this, right? If I see these comments in your code exactly the way I've put them here, that means to me that you've copied and pasted that out of my lecture. I pointed all of you to not do that. Write it out by hand. It's the only way you're going to get to know this stuff. Okay? Rest of today's lab. So, like I said, we should have hopefully an hour of lab each week. Do I have any questions? Anybody need help? Dwayne is here to help. Questions? Raised your hand first. I'm going to come over to you. Dwayne is also here. Oh, let me, yeah. Oh, you know what, Dwayne? There's something I totally forgot to tell everybody.